What's going on, fellow web developers? My name is Tyler Potts, and in today's video we're going to be creating this responsive CSS Navbar. So as you can see here, it just breaks down all the way down, and we can open it with this fancy animation here. So this is what I'm going to be showing you in this video. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay guys, as you can see on the left here in my directory, I have a index.html file, a main.css and a main.js file. I'm just going to close the sidebar, and on the right here you can see the old ones. If we refresh, you can see that can no longer be reached. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write up the boilerplate HTML code here, just using !tab to do the emit. Up here I'm just going to name this CSS Navbar. And I'm going to write link, and in here we're going to link up the main.css. Well, then under the body, I'm going to put in the main.js so we can actually hook up the JavaScript. Now in the JavaScript, we're only going to have a simple click event, so it's not going to be too much off that, but we'll do that at the end. So here, let's write in here a nav. So a nav is HTML5 for navbar, so it's kind of how you would set up some sort of navigation. We're going to give a H1, which is going to be called Tyler Potts, which is just the logo, essentially the brand. Then we're going to create a menu. Now in the menu, we're going to have 4 hrefs. I'm just going to give this hash. I'm going to say home, hash about. There you go. And I'm going to give a class to one of these called is-active. Now this is just going to explain that it's active, basically say it's good. We're then going to create a button called Hamburger. And in the Hamburger, we're going to have a span times 3. So we're just going to have 3 spans in there. And there you go. So right there, 3 spans. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run Control-Option-T. And I'm just going to write in here, I'm going to run http server dot. Now if you want to install this, you need to run npm. You need to have npm installed, -g or -g http server here, enter. That will install http server globally for you, and then you can run this command to serve a local web over here. So if we refresh, you can see this is what we get. Now there should be no CSS. There you go, it was just caching it from the old one. So there you go. So we now have this very broken looking HTML plate over on the right. So what we're going to do is, this all the markup we need, by the way. So we're going to head over into our main.css here, and we're going to start off by writing some CSS variables. Now CSS variables allow us to reuse variables. So we can see here 8c38ff, which is going to be a purple. We're then going to do a light color, which is going to be #EEE, which is going to basically be our light color, and then we're going to have a dark color here as well. Then I'm going to do some resets by just saying everything's margin is going to be equal to 0, padding start off at 0, and also a box sizing of border box. I'm then going to give it a font family of Fira, Sans, and sans serif. Now you can give this whatever font family you want, that's totally up to you. Now in here, we're just going to say .container, because we're going to need a container, which I don't think I currently have in here. As you can see, there is no container, but what we will do is we will create a container around these and paste those in. There you go. Now this container will basically keep it within a certain width, and the width we want to keep it within is going to be 1280 pixels. I'm then going to give it a margin of 0 auto to center it on bigger screens. If we just refresh here and we bring it out, there you go, you can see it's now working there. It's keeping it away from the edges over there. There we go. So underneath margin, we're going to also display this as flex. We're going to align item center, and we're going to justify content with space between. Hit save, refresh, and there you go. You can see everything's now sitting in a line. We're then going to basically going to hide our navbar, or sorry, our menu. So what we're going to do is we're going to say .menu, display none, and then we're just going to hit save, refresh. So that's now gone. Once we've got rid of our menu, we're going to say above this, we're just going to put Hamburger, which is going to be our hamburger here. And then above this, we're actually going to have a nav. So for our nav, we're going to have it as position fixed because you want it to be stuck to the top of the page at all times. We're going to have it left 0, right 0, and then we're going to have a Z index of 99, so it's layered above everything else. We're going to set our background color. Now we're going to use a variable, so we're going to say far hyphen dark, hit save, refresh. There you go, you can see that's now darkened. We're then going to give this a padding of around 16 pixels on top and bottom and 32 on the left and right to bring everything in a little better. And then we're going to have a border bottom, which is going to be just a nice little solid far primary here. And that way, zoom in one as well on this so you can actually see it a bit better. Now if we refresh, you can see there's now a purple bar at the bottom. So the hamburger now, which the next big thing is, we're going to display this as block. We're going to have a position of relative, a Z index of 1. We're going to say user select none, so you can't highlight this button. We're going to set the web appearance to 0, the border to none, the outline to none, and the background also to none. I'm then going to set the cursor to pointer so we can actually see. Refresh. Oh, it's actually disappeared because we've removed the appearance. So let's just go .hamburger span, and what we're going to say is display block for each of these, a width of about 33 pixels, but feel free to mess around with these values to fit whatever you, well, however you see it. We'll say margin bottom 5 pixels, and then position relative. So we're then going to set a background color to about far light, a border radius of about 6 pixels, and a Z index of 1. We're then going to set its transform origin to 0, 0, so it starts from the top left of the origin. And then we're going to create its transition to be about 0.4 seconds. And there we go. Let's refresh, and there you go. We can see we now have a hamburger menu on our right, but I also want to add some special effects. So I want to go hamburger. I want to say on hover, we're going to say span nth child 2. So we're going to grab the second span. So we're going to grab this middle span here, which is the second child of the hamburger, and we're going to say transform dot translate x about 10 pixels. So let's just see what that looks like. So now when we hover, you can see it kind of offsets itself out of the center. It gives it a nice like sort of, hey, look, this is here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say background color is equal to far primary. Hit save, and there you go. It kind of really offsets it now, so you can really see the difference there. So it's looking pretty good. Also, I just want to quickly, up here, I want to quickly style our H1 because I've noticed we haven't styled that yet, and that's quite an important part because, you know, it looks kind of hidden right now. So let's give it a white color, a font size of about 28 pixels. Let's give it a font weight of 900, which is black, and a letter spacing now of 2 pixels. And then I'm going to make sure everything is uppercase so it just looks a bit bigger. There you go. So that looks a lot better now. It's back down to the hamburger down here. We now need to set an isActive state for our hamburger menu. So what we want to do here is underneath the hover effect, we want to go hamburger.is. Oh, that's us active. Nope, isActive. And then we want to set the span nth child 1. And we're going to set the nth child 1, so the first element in there. So this span right here, we're going to say transform, if I can spell, transform, translate 0 pixels minus 2 pixels, and then rotate it by about 45 degrees. Hit save, and what we want to do is we're just going to add an isActive class straight to our hamburger. Now the reason we're doing that is just so we can see the effects. You can see it's kind of bent it down a little bit. So after this, let's say hamburger.isActive again. Oh, too many at that time. And then we want to get the span with the nth child of 3, because we want to get the last element this time, this one here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact same thing. So we're going to copy this, but instead of -2, we're going to set this to 3 pixels and this one to be -3 pixels. And also -45 degrees. Now if we refresh, you can see we've now kind of got an X there, but we've still got this middle one, which is kind of a pain. So let's actually just copy once again this, and let's set number 2, and let's set its opacity to 0, and its translate X to about 15 pixels. So refresh, and there you go, it's now gone, and it's nicely animated. So there we go, we've got this X here. So let's go into our JavaScript quickly, and let's just say const hamburger. So what we're getting is we're going to get a reference from our document. So we're going to say query selector, and what we're going to do is say .hamburger, and what we're doing is we're getting a reference to our hamburger button here and storing it in a immutable variable, and we're just going to add an event listener, call it click, and we're just going to say a function. We could do an arrow function, but I'm just going to stick for a normal function, and we're just going to say this, which this responds to is referencing the hamburger, should I say, and we're going to say class list dot toggle, and we're just going to say is active. Save. Let's remove the is active from here. Refresh, and now when we hover and we click, you can see we get the really nice smooth animation. Now the last thing I want to do is, once it's been clicked and we're hovering over the button, I just want to grab this, or yeah, I want to get a, we want to say .is active, and then we want to say span background color to be the variable of primary to save. So now if we click, you can see these are now purple, and if we click off, there you go. So it kind of gives you that nice little effect, so you can actually see that you're highlighting it. So that's all good, that looks really good, but let's say we scale up here and we get a bit bigger. We kind of want the hamburger to disappear, because you don't want the hamburger the whole time. Right, hamburgers are cool, but they're not the best. So in here, we're going to go underneath hamburger. We're going to say at media min width 768 pixels. So anything above iPad size, we're going to say .hamburger display none. Hit save, refresh. Now as we scroll up, you should be able to see, there you go, the hamburger has now disappeared at the right size. So what we're going to also do is we're going to say .menu display block, just like that. And we're also going to put this below the actual menu, because we want it to actually, you know, it's cascading style sheets for a reason. So now when we get bigger, you can see our menus now here, but it doesn't look that great. So let's go and style the menu. So let's just leave it, well, let's leave it about there for now, and let's click in here. So in our menu, we now want to style this by just going menu, flex 110%, save, refresh. That should bring it over here, which is fine. We're then going to basically, well, actually saying that, in our display here, we don't want it to be blocks, we're going to use flex. Then what we're going to do is we're going to justify the content to flex end. So this is going to push our content to the edge over here. We're then going to say margin is 0 pixels minus 16 pixels. So that should bring it back slightly. But then what we're going to do is we're going to get our menu A, and we're going to set the color to white, the margin to 0, 16 pixels to basically give spacing between, but also offset the minus margin we've just given. There you go. That would line up the contact perfectly with the border of our pages or our container. Then in here we're going to say font weight 600, text decoration none. We'll set transition, not transform, transition of 0.4 seconds. I'm going to give a padding of about 8 pixels, that's 0, not 8, 8 pixels, 16 pixels, and a border radius of around 99 pixels. And there you go, you can see that's now given it some spacing. But we now want to get the active menu item. So what I'm going to do is grab that and say is active, And for the menu item that's currently active, we're going to give it a background color of far primary. So if we refresh, you can see that's now done. But we don't get any hover effects. So let's actually also say comma dot menu a on hover as well. Refresh, and there you go. You now get a special hover effect along with the other effect. So now, as you can see, that's all we needed to add a responsive mobile navbar menu. Now what we could do to further this is we could add some sort of drawer that comes out once you create this. Now we're going to do that in another video, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you all for watching, and peace out.